Welcome to SAM Conversation, a program of South Asia Monitor. Our subject today is allocation for defense in the 2025 budget announced yesterday by the Finance Minister, Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman. At every budget, the defense, there's a lot of expectation about how much the allocation for defense is going to be. But it appears that over all these years, there's not much of a difference in the pattern. If the allocation this time is 6,81,210.27 crore, it amounts to about a 4.65 increase in capital allocation, a 9.2987 increase in pensions, and a 10.47 increase in expenditure on civil. This is not really a jump at all. It's not an increase at all, because inflation takes care of, inflation negates, it neutralizes such an increase. The aim of the army for 24 was technology absorption, and for this year, it is the year of defense reforms. Very, very urgently required reforms. In modernization, we need field guns for the artillery. 68% of them are vintage. 22% of them are current, and just 8% of them are state of art. In technology, we need to focus on artificial intelligence, quantum computing, machine learning, robotics, hypersonic, cyber, and space capabilities. Development organization output is not enough. We need the private sector and academia. Replacement of aging equipment is another area we need to to address very urgently. In particular, there are equipments like the Vajra K9 self-propelled gun, the ATAGS howitzer, the futuristic infantry combat vehicle. Now, the government public sector output is not enough. The private industry must be tapped. And today, the private industry has acquired quite a capability to produce the kind of equipment that we need. And the border roads, they need mention. Ever since 2007, 2008, when then Prime Minister Manmohan Singh was very worried about how much progress China had made and how little progress we had made, and he promised a fast-track development package for Arunachal Pradesh. Since then, we've built about 100 roads, bridges, and tunnels, 75 of which were inaugurated by the Defense Minister quite recently. But they need much more than the 6,500 crore. They need about 10,000 crore, because there's still more to be made. There are more bridges, roads, and tunnels that are required, not only in the border that we have with the Chinese, the line of actual control, but with Pakistan and also in the island territories. Without delving any more, I will request Maj Gen Rajan Kochhar, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Please update us on whatever needs to be done.
Good evening, sir, and Jai Hind to all your viewers. And at the outset, I wish to thank you for inviting me over for this very important discussion, especially within 24 hours of the presentation of the defense or the union budget. Uh, as a nation, we all are concerned for the security of the country. And that is why this budget is allocated to the Ministry of Defense on a yearly basis. Uh, Basically, the government is aware of the threat perceptions which we have today. And to uh, negate these threats, we have to develop the capabilities. You have rightly said that the budget over the years has not given us, as far as the defense is concerned, much to cheer about. The reason is that we have a large percentage of vintage equipment in the armed forces, a small percentage of state of art. So, if you have to graduate from vintage to state of art, what is our roadmap? How many years we want this state of art of 8 to 10% to remain where it is and progress to at least 25%? Uh, have our budget planners taken this roadmap into account? Because if you take this roadmap into account and if you visualize that you will take around 5 to 10 years to reach this statistics of 25%, then unfortunately, this kind of a budget does not give you much to cheer about. The reason is, let's have let's analyze first the capital part of the budget. Now, this capital budget last year was 6.21 lakh crores uh, at the time of the budgetary estimate. When the revised estimates came, it became 6.41 lakh crores. So let us take the benchmarking or the comparison, not from the budget estimate which the government is trying to tell us, but from the revised estimates. That is 6.41 lakh crores. And if we compare uh, this budget of 6.41 to 6.81, we see only an increase, overall increase of 6%. Now, looking at the capital budget, we had 1.72 lakh crores given to us. It is now 1.8 lakh crores. It's only an increase of 8,000 crores. So I just want to bring home the point. Do we in our country, in our nation, think that we are not going to fight a war? Because in case you have a thinking that the nation is prepared to fight a war, uh, then the necessary budgetary allocation is to be given to modernize our army, considering the adversaries' strengths and capabilities. So, uh, this increase, as rightly brought out by you, is just around 4.65%. And if you relate it to the revised estimate, it would be even less than 4%. Taking the 4% as the figure, uh, the inflation today is 5%. So that implies that you are back to the same level. And I am not taking yet into account the or the depreciation of the Indian rupee, which is 4.85% since the last year. So if you combine 5% with the 4.8, you would be left approximately with the figure of 10%, and you have increase of only 4%. And so that implies there is some fault line here in the allocation of the capital acquisition budget. One more important area. Last year, we have underspent 12,500 crores. Do you not think it is criminal when a money is given to you and you are not able to spend that money? Who is to be held accountable for this? 12,500 crores we have returned back to the government. So it brings us to another point, that are our procedures very bureaucratic or cumbersome that we are not able to spend the money? And if this be so, what are we doing to improve these procedures? Of course, we have the Defense Acquisition Procedure 2020. We have the Defense Acquisition Councils meeting regularly. But the bureaucracy is the one who is creating major obstacles. I often get to interact with young scientists, young entrepreneurs, startups who are not able to push their way through into the government bureaucracy. So, possibly through your program, this message must go loud and clear that we need to simplify our procedures and get the best equipment in the least possible time. The
If,
next important aspect is a modernization plan has already been given, and you also alluded in your opening narrative.
if,
Now, this
if
modernization plan, will we able to get all this with this allocation of the budget? We are so far planning, for your information, a procurement of 12 Sukhoi aircrafts. Uh, this is
no, it's, I think
actually,
26 Sukhois and one more Scorpion.
sir, 12 Sukhois have been
Latest,
approved.
the latest.
Okay. Okay, now this 26 Sukhoi, even if you plan to get, you will not be able to get in the next 1 year because of the budgetary allocation. Then 240 aero engines of the Sukhoi have also been contracted.
Yes, yes, yes.
Then you have the Reaper
And
drones, 31,000 crores worth of investment from the USA in 31 MQ-9 Sky as well as Sea Reaper drones. So if you take into account this, all these major acquisitions, what we are trying to do, it leaves very
it,
little
it it's
space.
no, it is it's alarming because I go back to I cannot but help mentioning here that General B.C. Joshi, God bless his soul, and General Shankar Roy Chaudhary. General B.C. Joshi took over in 93. Uh, General Shankar Roy Chaudhary took over in 95. It's over 30 years. These two chiefs, while serving, they had said, look, we are not getting enough, and it's a pity that we have to return. Because whatever you return gets adjusted, means the next year's that much is less. Because it is adjusted against the new budget.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And we see that even now, we are returning 20 or 30 crores, or whatever. It's, it's, and that means that the the procedure of the acquisition, it's often been said it's been revised, but like you mentioned that you met interacted with some entrepreneurs, so have I, and that's been their lament.
So you're right, and uh, you mentioned about the private sector. I would just like to elaborate on this particular aspect because this is extremely important because if we are looking at Nirbhar Bharat, we have to focus more on the private sector and less on the government sector. Today, 75% of the budget has been earmarked for the domestic procurements. That implies that out of 180 lakh crores, 75, which is
No,
a rough figure of around 130 lakh crores, is
some of
going
the
to be. You're saying something? Is
no, no,
going
please.
okay, is going to be spent from the domestic sector. Now this 130 lakh crores, you, uh, you have made a policy that only 25% of this will be allocated to the domestic to the private sector, and 75% to the public sector, that is the defense PSUs and the ordnance factories. Last year's statistics are quite a revelation, which say that when you gave the private sector 25%, they produced 75% of your export targets. Means 75% of your exports were through the private sector and 25 through the public sector, in spite of giving them 75% of the budget.
Yes, yes,
So the question here is, and it's quite relevant in our context, because we have a large number of companies coming into the private sector now,
yes.
uh, and especially with the FDIs of being increased from 49 to 74%. So the strategic partnerships are also coming into play. The OFBs are also OEMs are also aligning with the private sector today. So the question is that do we not have a case in point in increasing this allocation to 50%? Because if we do that, you will see a quantum jump in our exports. We have pegged a target 2025 as 35,000 crores of export. We are only trying to complete this target by uh, exporting BrahMos and Akash. What about the other defense systems with the private sectors getting involved with? So it's extremely important here. Certain defense reforms are required. And when the chief or the Raksha Mantri says that the year 2025 will be the year of defense reforms, I wish to see this as one of the defense reforms, because theaterization is a part of the defense reforms of 2025, where three new theaters are coming up. The cyber and space are also
Yes,
going to see defense reforms in
yes, yes.
2025.
Our main adversary, number one adversary, China, has been very, very, very active in this.
Absolutely. So, I would like to reiterate this point that let's involve the private sector, because gone are the days when Nehru's thought was that defense is a strategic sector and we cannot give it to the private sector. We have to give it now
Certainly not.
because that.
Certainly not today. Today we have a private sector which has the capability. It has shown the capability in some of the naval equipments that you see. It's there
And
as a huge
have a
system
look at.
like an aircraft carrier. Even there,
Yes.
there are Indian entrepreneurs, Indian companies which have well, you know, participated in and produced.
Look at the United States. In United States, the aircrafts, the aircraft carriers, the submarines are all manufactured by the private sector. And that is how the United States is one of the topmost superpower in the world, and China is closely following it, because China also follows a similar policy. So it is high time that dependence on HAL, because over a period of time, but the air chief is also making a statement that I'm
Yes,
not
yes,
getting the aircrafts. Tejas Mark 1 and Mark 1 Alpha are not coming through in the requisite numbers
yes,
with
yes.
which the Air Force wants. There is a deficiency of 12 squadrons of the Air Force today. And the
Absolutely.
present,
The Air Force chief has gone on record. He's gone on
yeah,
record
he's,
very recently.
yes,
He
absolutely.
has he's made a very critical observation about the slow delivery of combat aircraft to the Air Force.
So if we look at these statements, because after all, an Air Force chief will not make such a public statement unless it was necessary, unless it was to make the government realize that it is high time we start looking at these things. And if we are going to rely on Atmanirbhar Bharat, I don't think the Air Force will be able to get these 12 squadrons in the next 20 years. So there is now a requirement, and you must have your plan ready to equip your Air Force with either F-35s or Sukhois 57, because right now the debate is on whether India would like to invest in F-35 or the Sukhois. And more so when you have to make up the shortfalls of your squadrons. But the second most important aspect is, which possibly we haven't discussed in much media, is our air defense system. The air defense here, I think, needs a more deliberate focus, especially when we see the Iron Dome like system in Israel. And now President Trump also made a statement that USA also needs an Iron Dome kind of air defense system. If USA can uh, feel the pinch of its existing air defense system, in spite of Patriots and Thards and all that, I think that India is
Yes,
very largely affected. And I'm given to us, you understand that Akash Tir, that is the new air defense acquisition, which is going to control all air defense assets in the country today. We have the Russian systems also coming. We have the Prithvi missiles, we have the Akash, and we have the Barak 8 LR SAMs, and we have the S-400 with us. So we have a plethora of air defense system, but we require a system which is going to be automated, which is going to be sensor based, and which will launch the right kind of air defense missile depending upon the threat. And that is why this Akash Veer is coming through. I am given to understand that 455 of these systems are on the anvil. 107 have been delivered. 105 are going to be delivered in March 2025, and the balance in March 2027. So let's hope this goes through. And for this, budget is required. And so far, I would like to see a commitment from the government to state that the budget has been catered for the next 2 years for the acquisition of the Akash Tir air defense missile system. And one more important aspect is, we would also like to be confident that this Akash Tir is going to deliver. So, possibly the integration of the Army Air Defense Corps and the Indian Air Force has to be done in a very, very closely coordinated manner, because both of them will be
yes,
actively involved in the air defense of the nation. So this is one important aspect I wanted to bring out so in our talk today, because you over the years we have been relying on Strellas, Tangushkas, Shilkas, L-60s, L-70s. The days of all these weapon systems are over now, because we have to have long range vectors. We have to engage targets in excess of 2000 kilometers.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
we cannot think of 50, 60, 70 kilometers now. So, considering that the enemy is also working on this technology, I would like to highlight some areas of technology like artificial intelligence, quantum computing, machine learning, hypersonics, and robotics. Because these are the five technologies which need to be assimilated into the defense forces, and the budgetary allocation is actually affecting the amalgamation of these technologies into our systems today. 2024 was declared as the year of the absorption of technologies by the army chief.
Technology absorption.
Yes,
Technology
and
absorption. Yeah.
I would like the
And
army
another,
chief.
uh,
I would like the army chief to uh, bring it out that in 2024, what all technologies and to which extent have been absorbed into the Indian Army. Because if that was your year where you had to focus on absorption of a technology or technology absorption, let us see how far have
no
we
doubt.
reached there, and it will be an eye opener, because once these information and this actually comes out, it'll be eye opener for us to see that how much of a distance we have yet to cover. And that is why when we compare with the China, when we compare with our adversaries, because China is the main adversary today, uh, for your information, sir, China has an increase of 17% last year to its defense budget.
No, and
Pakistan has
China
had an
is,
increase of Pakistan 17.5% increase of budget.
yes, yes.
So these two countries are equally bothered as we are bothered to improve our posture of defense. Are we only going to be a defensive posture, or do we have any offensive element also built into our strategy or our doctrines? That is extremely important, because in case you
We,
want to bring.
the, you see, the irony is that we do not, uh, we have tremendous capability, which we have only, which we have only displayed, like, once in 2016 in the form of those surgical strikes, and once a little later in 2019 but the Balakot strike. We have tremendous capability, but I think we need much more of political will to uh, because we cannot take for granted that China is armed itself very heavily throughout on the line of control. It's created about I think 600 odd villages. I mean, it's doing so much on the ground, uh, and we cannot afford to be we cannot afford to be found wanting if there is a if push comes to shove and there is a confrontation.
No,
And you
absolutely right,
cannot
sir. And
you cannot at all say that there will not be so.
no, absolutely right. And uh, the infrastructure to talk about China, since you raised the issue of the border areas, but the infrastructure or the border roads organization, I feel would be disappointed with this budget, because from 6,500 crores, you have just reached around 7,100 odd crores.
No,
So
yeah.
we were expecting a much more increase. As a matter of fact, in my article, I had suggested, or I was hoping that at least border roads will get 10,000 crores, because see, China's activities on the LAC we are not able to control. China's infrastructure development is going at such a fast pace that I don't think we
Yes, and
can.
they began much earlier than us.
Yeah.
They began much,
So,
much earlier than us.
so in case we have to match our own infrastructure on the borders with China,
Yes.
there needs to be absolutely a fast track process. And for that fast track process, you need money. And if that money is not going to be there, and if for information, sir, I was just very interesting statistics I saw today. Out of the 1 rupee which the government spends, it spends 8 paisa on defense. So that means that after every 1 rupee of our expenditure, only 8 paisa is spent on defense. So it clearly tells you that this sector is not getting its due what it should get.
No, no, it is not. It is not.
Therefore, we need to keep on reiterating these aspects uh, till the cows come home, to bring out the fact that the national security of a country is extremely important. Today, if there is a war, the consequences of war can be disastrous. In case the nation is not strong enough. So, for nation,
Yes,
I
no
mean
doubt. No doubt.
your armed forces. So, you have to strengthen your armed forces. Schemes like Agniveer should be shown the back door, because today uh, our armed
Absolutely.
forces strength,
Absolutely.
our armed forces strength has been reduced from 13 lakhs to 11 lakhs. The border management has increased. Bangladesh border, we are seeing a deployment now happening. China border is eyeball to eyeball. Line of
Yes.
control is eyeball to eyeball.
Yes.
Why do
Yes.
you think the revenue expenditure is going up, sir? Why do you think revenue expenditure is going up? It is going up because the troops have to be maintained on the borders and are increasing by the day, and that is why the revenue expenditure is almost 46% of the budget. You people say that revenue expenditure should be reduced. How can we reduce? Because the threats are there. The cost on fuel, the cost on ammunition, the cost on aircraft flying today have increased. The
Yes.
cost
Yes.
on
Yes.
convoy movements, you feeding the troops in the high altitude areas. So we have to look into this entire thing in a holistic manner. And I think it's high time this from 1.9% of the GDP, and if you remove the pensions, it becomes 1.48% of the GDP. This 1.48% definitely should go up to 2%, if not the 2.5, and gradually over a period of 5 years, we must get a 3% share of the GDP, because unless we are going to do that,
Um,
unfortunately, we are going to remain where we are.
I thank you, Jen Kochhar. Thank you very much. You given us, a lot. But I'm afraid for shortage of time, we have to finish here. Thank you very much, and all the best.
Thanks a lot, sir. It was a pleasure to be on the show, sir. Jai Hind.